welcome to the WD Lounge, where we talk film, music, culture, and social events. And today, ladies and gentlemen, what else can we talk about? Let's talk about the hottest thing that happened over the weekend. When we're talking about the Grammys, we're not going to talk about just a night to remember for certain artists, but we're going to talk about the artist, the man himself, the one for the last 2 years that has been dominating the landscape of hip hop and music itself. We're talking about Kendrick Lamar, ladies and gentlemen. Kendrick Lamar, if you haven't heard already, has went to the Grammys and has cleaned house once again for 2 years in a row, which now officially puts him ahead of Jay-Z as the most awarded hip hop artist of all time. Yes, you heard it. Kendrick Lamar went to the Grammys yesterday. I mean, not yesterday, over the weekend, and won all of his categories, including Best Rap Album for GNX. Now, I just want to speak my opinion about that real quick because I've heard a lot of content creators and people that's on YouTube talking about this, and some of the big names as well. Joe Budden has talked about this, DJ Academics, and a lot of people have been talking about this as well. But a lot of people, there's a few that had criticism about GNX winning Album of the Year. I haven't heard anything of recent, but I know when they nominated the album for Album of the Year towards the beginning of the year, there was a lot of pushback. Not beginning of the year, but around the time when they announced the Grammys and the nominations, there was a lot of pushback about Kendrick Lamar's GNX album being nominated for the simple reason of the fact that he was at the Grammys prior and he won 5 awards for that Grammys. Now, I'm surprised because a lot of guys that were actually pushing back on this notion are actually music individuals, people that have made a lucrative career either performing as musicians, rappers, the producers, whatever it may be. These individuals are very more educated about the music industry than I am. I'm an actor and a film producer, so it's not a part of my journey, so to speak, but it is a part of my life because music was very essential to me growing up. The majority of my family members are musicians or attempted to be musicians at one point, so music was always around me. So I may not have I don't have the intricate breakdown like some of these guys like Rapaholics, shout out to Rapaholics, and Screwface Jean, and Chick Smooth, and so on and so forth. These guys been doing this for a long time, and I'm just getting into the space right now, so I'm somewhat of a newbie. But listening to their content and listening to them break down music, sometimes I think to myself, I'm like, maybe I might be biting off a little more than I can chew. But at the same time, everyone has different insight and everybody can break down certain things, and I guess that's why that's why this space is so unique, because there's other we could discuss the same topics but have different points of view about it. And when you have the musicians and you got the guys that are into music that make money doing music, could talk about certain things, they could give you more insight compared to someone like me who uses music as what I do, as part of what I do. But I mean, as far as the breakdown and the science of lyrics and stuff like that, I'm just not that guy, but I do have insight on what's going on. So just wanted to give a small insight of a backlog story of why I was thinking to myself as to why certain people couldn't explain why GNX was being nominated for Album of the Year twice, or why couldn't it be Album of the Year before. So what I was thinking, well, not thinking, but what I'm saying is that when Kendrick Lamar was nominated for 5 award when he won the 5 Grammys last year, and this was around the beef that he was having with Drake. We have to remember that when GNX came out, the Grammys had already the Grammys was already done. You know, the beef actually started around March 31st, if I'm not mistaken, around March 16th or something like that. That's when the beef took off. Now, mind you, the Grammys was played 2 months prior, two months prior to the beef actually igniting. So there was no window where GNX could have been nominated for that, because at the time, of course, you had the Grammys was only 2 months away from when the beef started. So now when the beef was over, everything was settled on the sand, and Kendrick Lamar was the victor, obvious victor. Came out. Then they came the pop out concert. Then came the announcement for the Super Bowl and stuff. So around this time, this time frame was when there'd be. This is when albums and certain songs are being created and would be considered as nominations for the next upcoming show. Now, GNX GNX came out later on that year, and GNX, the album technically was not qualified to be a part of that show because they had already chose the albums that were going to be selected for album of the year and stuff. So there's no way GNX didn't have enough time throughout the yearly circuit to circulate around the airwaves and everything to even be prompt up to be in a Grammys. So in other words, like if that year when Kendrick Lamar won 5 awards for the Not Like Us song, if GNX would have been chosen at the moment, then it would have had more of a suspicion of sort as to what is it about this album that just came out and all of a sudden it's up for album of the year and all this and all. It wouldn't have made sense that way. If anything, it would have opened the door for more criticism as far as Kendrick being the Grammy darling, or he's getting the nod, and so, or Kendrick just opened his mouth, somebody go give him a Grammy now right now. That would have been more validated at that moment had he been nominated. But what what happened was when GNX came out, it had its full calendar year to actually run the wave that it was running, and that's why that's why it seems like he's getting nominated over and over. But the reality is there's no way that he would have been able to get nominated for GNX for that last year. So he needed a full year, or in other words, it was one of the first albums starting in the calendar Grammy year. And that's why it seems like he was getting keep getting nominated twice and stuff like that. So technically he didn't have an album to put in for a rap album of the year he won 5 Grammys for Not Like Us. It was a diss track. So now that he dropped the album, and he dropped the album towards the beginning of that year, think about it like a fiscal year for those who are in the workforce. It's like he dropped this album in the beginning of the fiscal year. So technically it seems like it's been more than a year that album been out, but in reality of that fiscal year, that's when it came out, the beginning of it. So it had its full 12 months, and it had its 12 months to run on the airwaves and everything like that. So that's why he was able to get the nomination for rap album of the year. And there was a lot of and there's a lot of opinions out there. People feel like the Clips should have gotten it, or Tyler had a great album, or Chance the Rapper, he had a great album as well. So there was a few artists that were maybe deserving it for rap album of the year. But I'm gonna tell y'all like this: I was out of town on this weekend in Miami, and I was going on the elevator. And I'm going to tell you like this. If you have a song that's in an album that only came out a year ago, going on 2 years now, and one of the songs is already being played in elevators, like as elevator music, you already know that's a classic hands down. Because we all know everyone that gets on an elevator, anytime you get on an elevator, you hear a song that at one point in life was a classic or a masterpiece. So for Luther, and Luther was the song actually that I heard in the on the elevator. So if Luther is already becoming elevator music within a year and a half of its release, or going on 2 years of its release, then that's let you know hands down that, anyone that was nominated for best rap album had to come with something as equal or better than that album. And most people are already calling it classic, another classic. We know Kendrick Lamar to drop classic albums. That's why he takes so long in between albums to do it, because when you can't rush perfection, you can't rush greatness. And there's a lot of artists that constantly drop albums over and over, and they're dropping 2 or 3 albums, but they don't have the substance that stick like a classic album does. So when you see Kendrick Lamar is gone for like a year, 2 years, he doesn't drop an album, but his music from the previous album is still making runs, then that lets you know greatness is greatness and it shouldn't be rushed. So that's my explanation about why I feel like why people. I'm not sure why nobody caught that, but that's my understanding as to why he was nominated, because he didn't get a chance to fully get a full run of that album getting its playtime. But now that it was well, he won the rap album of the year. Bad Bunny won album of the year, but it was a great win for Kendrick. You know what I mean? And it's just a proof, and it's a testament to show how this man has a stranglehold on hip hop right now. There's artists that's dropping albums and they're not getting the recognition, or they're not getting the praise as they're used to, because now the audience ear is trained to not accept mediocrity or ABC type of rhymes. You know what I'm saying? They want quality music of substance, music that has lyricism, just the stuff that we used to listen to back in the 90s, back in the early 2000s, when it was like the Jays and the Nas's were going at it, when Pac and Biggie was going at it. I mean, this was straight up lyricism. LL Cool J and Cannabis, you got people that was actually out there putting wordplay to pen, and them talking about, and to this day, certain lyrics are still being broken down. So it shows you from where we came from and where we were before this whole incident with Drake and Kendrick happened. It showed you where hip hop was at one point, how much it faltered, and how it's now coming back to its forefront. Although we didn't have a number one song on the billboards for a time being, but that just shows you that just shows the level of acceptance that we were stuck with, because nothing of substance is on the charts. And I think it's kind of good for hip hop in that sense too. It kind of cleanses out the rappers that really don't care about the art, more or less, and wants to just make a bag, compared to the artists that actually care about putting a body of work together to not only get the recognition, but to show their excellence when it comes to creating music. So I love this win. I'm glad that Clips got an award as well, so they weren't left out. And Luther won best animated song of the year or something like that. But Luther won an award as well. So shout out to SZA and Kendrick Lamar. Shout out to Doechii again for winning another album. And it's good to see hip hop continue to be recognized in the Grammys. We know we had an issue with that about a couple of years ago, where Jay-Z did stand up for hip hop. Diddy had stand up for hip hop, and they were talking about not getting things right. So ironic how it was the two names that are very are not in the brightest light, so to speak. They were the ones to step up to have things change, and definitely there was a change that needed to be needed. So shout outs to the Grammys for getting it right. Shout out to Kendrick Lamar for putting out a great body of work. And to all the other rappers that are upset or they're jealous about Kendrick Lamar, hey, step your pen up, step your game up, step your pen game up. Start writing these lyrics like you care, and stop worrying about the bag because you already have the bag. But then again, that's what life is. Such is life, you know. You're not as hungry as you are until you're not as hungry as you are when you get the bag. Before you get the bag, you're gonna give your best stuff because you're hungry. And once your stomach is full, you get fat, you get lazy, you get out of shape, and then the next guy that's hungry is gonna come in and knock you out. And that's exactly what happened to Drake. That's what's happening to other people right now. Kendrick Lamar was gone for 5 years, and everybody was running amok in hip hop, and they were doing their thing, getting their number ones, doing what they have to do, and there was no structure of where it should be, or what should be expected. The bar wasn't set. Let's just put it like that. And Kendrick Lamar came out of nowhere and set the bar. Now that he set the bar, you see guys like J. Cole, who initially was part of the big three or part of the beef, and he's the one that actually after Kendrick came out with Like That. He was actually the first one to respond to the Like That and backed out of it. Even with him apologizing, he's realizing what mistake he made apologizing, because that apology not only paved the way for Kendrick to annihilate his adversary, the one that he really wanted, but there's an argument to be made that he put himself out of a position to actually be an artist that would be worthy to go bar for bar with Kendrick. And because of that, we were robbed of a great battle between the three biggest transcendent artists in the past decade. And Kendrick Lamar stood tall on that. And we know we've heard countless breakdowns of that. But if you'd like me to break it down to my version of it, just leave a comment on the comment section, and I'll work on that video as well. But this video specifically just wanted to give Kendrick Lamar and the Grammy their flowers, because I feel like they got it right as far as hip hop goes. And just a public service announcement to all the other rappers and musicians out there, get your stuff together, because not only is PG Lane doing their thing with the music, but the production value as well. If you see some of Kendrick Lamar's shows, or if you see some of his videos, the visuals is just like second to none. And now he's getting into movies, and he's supposed to have a project coming out with the creators of South Park. So there's a lot of things coming for 2026. But man, he set the bar very high, and he's been dominating for the past 2 years, almost 2 years since the beef between him and Drake. And as far as J. Cole goes, he's pretty much sitting back in the cold, looking at what could have been had he stepped up and went toe to toe with this guy. Because Kendrick defeating Drake the way he did, and having a bop as a diss track, is what set the tone for this run that he has right now, that is going on 2 years, where he's been number one on the Billboard, number one on the charts, number one album, number one single, number one this. He's played in the Super Bowl. He's had the pop-out concert. He's had two world tours, or two tours that sold out. One stadium tour that sold out. Now he did the world tour that sold out. It's just constant, over and over, and it's as if he knew he had a plan. Being gone for 5 years and orchestrating this rollout and this run that he's been having for 2.5 years. Yeah, if it took him 5 years to manifest what's going on right now, well, it was 5 years well spent, because half of that 5 years he's been in a hiatus. Almost half of that 5 years that he's been in a hiatus, he's finally now dominating. Half of that. So if it took 5 years to do that, and within half of those 5 years, you've already picked up all these Grammys and all these accolades, and then you're at the top of your game and you're at your prime, hey, sometimes it helps to sit back, create a body of work, and don't be afraid to put it out if it's not great. If it's not what you want, don't be afraid to put out. And I'm not knocking the hustle. And I'm not knocking the guys that do hustle, that put out multiple projects, and I'm one of them. You know, I've been in dozens of films, and I haven't been in one that actually took me to the next level yet, but it's taking me to different levels. So from my perspective and my point of view, yes, it's great to take time to make a classic, but sometimes your classic may not hit. So you don't just give up and throw in the towel. You go back to the drawing board, and then you try to cut another classic. So hats off to Kendrick Lamar, hats off to the Grammys, and I'm happy for hip hop. Hip hop is finally getting their recognition that they deserve. Please like, comment, share, subscribe to the channel if you like what was going on. If you like my breakdown, and if you'd like to hear more, just leave it on the comment section. Until then, this is the WD Sports Lounge signing off. To the next video.